But all the bees' efforts make honey totally unique, and its special properties were appreciated by some in a supercharged form.
Mead was a really important drink for all the northern people, basically. I mean, we always associate it with the Vikings and the Celts.
Mead is the earliest fermented drink known to humankind. Mead is a combination of honey and water, which is left to ferment, if you're lucky, and it produces an alcoholic drink. Can you imagine what the first experience of mead would have been like? And then you begin to realise it's actually having an effect on your brain. It must have been fantastic.
Mead gave birth to a drinking and partying culture for the Celts.
Mead drinking was quite a brutal, masculine, convivial sort of drinking. I mean, it's definitely not your Mediterranean piazza wine sipping.
Which is no longer the preserve of warriors.
This is a mind-bending experience, and then it's just a very short jump from thinking that this is a way to move over into another world, the world of the divine, and then it becomes a way of communicating with the gods, who themselves were believed to drink mead.
The hangovers were terrible. While the Celts enjoyed the more depraved effects of mead, they also believed honey had aphrodisiac properties. And they weren't the only ones to use honey away from the dinner table. It was drawn on the doors of Greek couples, and blindfolded Polish brides had honey smeared on their lips.
Bees themselves have always been connected with sex, and I think it's partly this very intimate connection between bees and flowers, which is almost like having sex in some strange way. And I think it's also just the sheer unctuous sensuality of honey, which we somehow associate with love.
The world's love affair with honey peaked in the Middle Ages. Beekeeping became England's fourth biggest industry, and the price of honey was so low that we were using 2 kilograms each every year.
Honey was 50 times cheaper than sugar. So if you were an ordinary person, there is no way you could afford sugar, but you probably could afford a taste of sweetness in the form of honey.
Sales in the UK have doubled over the last 5 years.
Honey is just everything that is exciting in food now. Honey is unadulterated, and people are responding to that.
We're using more honey than ever before, and in more adventurous ways. I'm going to show you a little supper dish that I reckon is hiding in everybody's kitchen cupboard. We're going to make sweet and sour char-grilled pork chop. First thing we're going to use is honey. There's a really good tip with honey. Don't store it anywhere near the kettle. Don't dip a wet teaspoon in it. If you do, the moisture will force it to crystallise. Right, that's the sweet. And now for the sour, a little bit of soy sauce. And then just to bring those flavours together and give it some real body, I'm going to add some chopped garlic to that and a little bit of grated ginger. There we are. Mix it around. And that is the easiest marinade you ever made. Very, very quick. And literally just going to dip the pork chop in and make sure it's really well coated. So I'm going to leave that to marinate for about half an hour. And just to prove I'm not a one-trick pony, I'm going to use honey again to make some pickled cabbage. It's my favourite way of eating red cabbage. All we need is some red wine vinegar, a little bit of red wine. And we're going to pour the red wine into a pan, about a glassful. So, red wine vinegar on top of the red wine. There we are. That's going to give it the sour, and the sweet is the honey. So I'm just going to pour some honey in straight out the jar. And I'm going to allow that to simmer and reduce by half before it goes on the red cabbage. Add a tiny bit of oil to the pan. And then straight from the marinade into the pan. Now, when you heat a protein, there's something going on called the Maillard reaction. And by adding sugar, we're accentuating that reaction, which means that we're going to get a really good caramelisation, and the honey is going to add to that effect. Now, If I turn that over, you'll see beautiful caramelisation there. Look at that. This is our red cabbage marinade here. It's reduced by half. We've also allowed it to cool slightly. So now's the time, literally, pour the marinade over. The sweet and sourness of the red cabbage will cut through the richness of the pork. So it's a perfect balance of flavours. A little bit more on top. And then the pork chop, and just rest that on there. And that is absolutely beautiful. Just going to pour a few of the juices out the pan onto there. Make sure you get all that flavour. And what that says to me is don't keep your honey just for the pudding course.